Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, FASHIONTECH Berlin, for having me here. So we're going to try and explore this question in a very short amount of time, and I'll do my best in the 12 minutes that we have. For those of you that don't know Async, we've been engaged in creating brand-defining experiences for the best part of 25 years. We work across many different cultures. We work across many different design disciplines. We have environmental designers, graphic designers, communications, digital designers, service designers, and strategists. We work holistically, and we're massively interested in people and what we call designing human experience. We're most famous for, I would say, creation of the Apple Store concepts. Our founder and CEO, Tim Kobe, worked with Steve Jobs for many years, and we still work with Apple today from our San Francisco office. And we've always looked to do what we call create a proposition, which is about designing human experiences. And by that, we mean design that performs, not just design that looks great or feels great. It has to perform, and it has to deliver for the business, for the brand, and for customers. The second part of it is the human part, and we're very interested in people, in what people think, what people feel, and what people do. And the key to great retail experiences and brand experiences is understanding those people, whether that's your customers or whether that's your staff that work for you and need to be motivated to work for you as a brand. The third part is experience, and experience is everything. And some people say you can't design an experience because it's very intrinsic to a person, but an experience is made up of everything we see, the physical, the digital, and the human, and we operate in this world. We work across multiple different categories, different sectors, different channels, which is really relevant for today's conversation because we're going to talk a bit about millennials, and they don't differentiate. They are absolutely agnostic in their behavior. So they're not going to compare one luxury brand to another. They might compare it to Uber because of the kind of service they get from Uber. We work across everything from automotive to luxury to fashion to banking to telecommunications. And the great thing is you can leverage all of the insights and the learnings from those different sectors and apply it to a specific challenge. So to the question that we need to kind of explore today, we're going to break this into three clear, distinct sections. First of all, an exploration of millennials and the notion that millennials and their mindset is much more interested now in experience over the purchase of things. The second part is the shift that we see in the future paradigm for luxury and how consumer spending is changing into the experience market. And the third part is what we at 8 term return on experience and how ultimately that delivers better return on investment for businesses and for brands. So if we begin with millennials, they probably, and we ask kind of, who are they, what are they? They kind of in the press get a bad reputation. They're considered maybe lazy, arrogant, self-indulgent, all of these negative connotations, when actually millennials as a whole are incredible. They're progressive, they're entrepreneurial, they're disruptive. They're disrupting the market in a really interesting and vibrant manner. They're the future leaders, and they're incredibly diverse and complex. And actually, one of the key defining features of the millennials today is their desire for experience. And the statistics and the figures and the evidence back all of this up. They value experience more than anything else. And a good example of that are these two chaps here. You'll ask a brand sometimes about their segmentation, and they'll talk about a millennial is from 1980 to 1995, and a Gen Z is 96 to whenever it might be, depending on what paper I read. But that's about generational thinking. What brands need to do is think about psychographics, because both of these guys are millennials. They're both called Harry. One's a prince, one's a pop star, but they have completely different attitudes, completely different needs, completely different desires, different pain points. So if a luxury brand were to engage with a millennial and a kind of demographic, that would be a mistake, because actually we need to understand attitudinally how the different behaviors work. And what this is doing is driving what we call the experience economy. And we are seeing a shift beyond just millennials. And if you take the millennial market plus the Gen Z market, it equates to something like 45% of the overall luxury spend, which is fascinating. But if you extend the profile psychologically and actually consider maybe baby boomers or exennials like myself who have millennial mindsets, that extends the spend even further. And that spend is very much overtaken from products to experiential, which now equates for over half. So what is driving the experience economy? Well, there's many things, but we've got a short amount of time, so I've picked out 3 key drivers that I feel are relevant for today's conversation. The first is a term called stuffication, which was coined by James Woolman, who wrote the book on it. It kind of deals with the idea that we're at peak stuff. We've got enough stuff. We've got too much stuff. In fact, we need to declutter our lives more and more. And the fact is that buying products doesn't always give you the happiness that you think. Experience gives you happiness. Experience drives happiness. Happiness then drives productivity and innovation. So the notion that millennials are thinking more about less and less about more. The second driver is the challenges that millennials have in terms of ownership. They can't afford to buy houses. They can't afford to buy cars. And so we've seen the kind of birth of the Uberization of industries. We've seen the Airbnbs, which was actually born out of the most recent crash. The idea was brilliant for Airbnb, but the timing of it was the genius part, because people's mindset had shifted from an ownership model to an access model. And this is one of the key features for millennials moving forward. And then the third part, and this kind of touches on both millennials and Gen Z really, where we think, I'm sure people are familiar with the term FOMO, the fear of missing out. And technology and digital is driving that. People are seeing through broadcast social media brilliant experiences that everybody else is having. And so they want to be connected. They want to be connected to something more, something bigger, to communities, to access and so on. And communities don't start down the local shop or down the local pub now. Communities start online with shared interests, shared beliefs, shared affinity. And the smart brands are tapping into that. And so if that's a very quick look at the millennial mindset, we need to move from this world into this world as brands. We've now got a very big question, and I'm conscious I've got 5 minutes left, and we're not going to explore the what is luxury, but I'm sure if I asked everyone in the audience, everyone would have a different interpretation of what luxury is. You might say a watch, you might say a bespoke trip around the world. For me, a luxury is clearing my inbox, right? Because why does that happen? It frees up time for me. It frees up time for me to do things. It gives me space, it gives me pleasure, and then I can go and spend my time on experiences, which is what life is really about. And so there's 5 factors that I've pulled out that are really driving the change in consumer consumption of luxury from product through to experience. The first of which is a shift from buying to being. It's the self-actualization market. Millennials, more than anyone, are aware of who they are, where they're going, and this is called self-actualization. And smart brands like Newhouse, for example, are addressing high-growth entrepreneurs who want to start up businesses or have plans for their life, and they're offering them the space, expertise, advice, mentorship to help them become the best that they can be. And it's about brands enabling that and building a loyalty through that kind of engagement. The second shift is from owning to doing. It's this notion of engage me in something interesting and I'll come to it. Give me a cool experience, I will come to it. What Burberry are doing is nothing particularly new, but it's actually brilliant. The Burberry Acoustic is about promoting brilliant British brands. But what it did was create a platform for conversation. A platform at catwalk shows or in retail experience, but also through social media and bite-sized content that's distributed out. What it did was create brilliant moments for customers to engage with their brand. That then leads to sales. It's not sales first. The third one, again, you might say this is nothing new. We know we need to shift from analog to digital. Everybody's trying to do it now. Luxury has probably been the slowest adopter of digital for all of the understandable reasons of heritage, authenticity, quality, craftsmanship, and the tension that exists between digital. But the shift is happening, and brands need to consider this more and more to get all of their digital up to speed. Because if you don't, you're being compared actually to the operational efficiency of Uber or Amazon. And if they come to you as a luxury brand and you can't even do the basics right, you're not even going to get onto the next stage of conversation with them. Which leads nicely into the fourth point, which whilst digital is critical and your digital transformation is critical, if you only do that, you're actually going to be dead in the water. Because the more digital commoditizes and does its brilliant operations efficiently, The missing factor is the human bit. That's the real driving bit. So as the human is becoming rarer with AI, with automation, with digital, it's becoming more valuable. Something that's rarer becomes more valuable. And when it becomes more valuable, it becomes compelling and it becomes differentiating for a brand. And we can see what Net-a-Porter have done more recently with the personal concierge service. And the final part of this is a shift, ultimately, from transactions to relationships. Of course, we need to sell, but the point is to create a holistic experience that delivers a new form of relationship that engages in deeper, more meaningful ways with your customers, with your clients, which ultimately leads to transactions. And so a full circle on that question really is about how do luxury brands add value, and they do that in a meaningful way through holistic experiences. And we call that a return on experience. Return on experience delivering better return on investment. Return on investment to be through monetary terms, through increased NPS, through revenue streams, through acquisition and so on and so forth. But it's proven that this is working. The final bit, Sarah, I'd say, so why experience and what are the bits of experience? Experiences are memorable. I don't remember a pair of shoes I bought from 5 years ago, but maybe I remember taking my girlfriend to a fun fair, the perfume she was wearing, and the candy floss that we ate. Because 10 years later, I might smell that perfume again, and it will take my memory back to that particular experience. So people remember experiences much more than they remember buying a product. So if you wrap a product around a compelling experience, it's something they'll take away. It's also differentiating. This is work we did for Virgin Atlantic for their lounges. Everybody flies in with different brands and so on. So what's the real differentiating bit? It's the people you talk to, it's the service you get, it's the uniform they wear, and it's the cocktail they shake. And ultimately, it delivers on word of mouth. And word of mouth is proven to deliver on propensity to purchase and ultimate purchase. The figures are incredible. So all of the senior C-suite teams of the big brands of the world are very interested about experience design because it's proven to truly deliver. People will talk about brilliant experiences, and now they'll talk through social media channels, which amplifies the story and the brand story even further. And it's emotive. If I have an experience, I'm emotionally connected and I'm engaged with you as a brand, and I've got a loyalty with you. So that if you give me something brilliant, I'm going to love you even more. And actually, if you screw up, I'm probably going to forgive you because I love you, because I've got that emotional connection and bond with you. And then ultimately, it's human. Through real holistic experience, human engagement is the key critical factor to deliver luxury service. And we sum that up as experience is holistic. We work in the 4 realms, and here is an experience now. We've got the physical space, the environment. We've got the communications on the content on the screen. We've got digital enablement and tools. We've got the technology. We've got the service, and then we've got the staff who are the behavior model, wrapped up in the brand of FASHIONTECH Berlin 2018. So that is how you create a holistic experience, and that is what is going to engage millennials for the future, to win their hearts and ultimately win their minds. Thank you.